Captain Juan walked through the Alliance station corridors. The walls were built to accommodate the different species of the Alliance. Some sections had extra gravity for the heavy Corvani warriors. Other areas had special air for the Nexari cyborgs. The Vorthak needed rooms with specific light frequencies for their crystal bodies. Commander Tay walked beside him, wearing the formal uniform that represented Earth. "Captain, remember that we're here as guests. These species could destroy our entire planet if they wanted to." "I know," Juan replied, watching Alliance soldiers pass by. Each one looked like they could tear apart a human with their bare hands. But they asked for our help. That means something. The meeting room was enormous. The ceiling was so high that Juan could barely see the top. The Alliance Council sat at a curved table that could have held 100 people. Each species had their own section designed for their specific needs. Admiral Nari entered with Dr. June and the rest of the Earth delegation. The Alliance members studied the humans with obvious curiosity. Most of them had never seen a human in person before. The Vorthak representative spoke first. His voice sounded like wind blowing through crystal caves. "Humans of Earth, we thank you for coming. We have a problem that requires your unique perspective." Dr. June set up his portable computer to take notes. "We're ready to help however we can." The Nexari delegate activated a large holographic display in the center of the room. 3 days ago, our deep space scouts detected this ship. The image showed a vessel unlike anything the humans had ever seen. It was black, but not just dark black. It seemed to absorb light itself. "The ship appeared without warning near our border systems," continued the Nexari. "It did not respond to our communication attempts. When we sent a patrol to investigate, the ship destroyed all 5 vessels in less than 10 minutes. Commander Tay studied the recording of the battle. "What kind of weapons does it use?" The Corvani warrior answered. "That is the problem. It uses weapons we have never seen before. Energy beams that pass through our shields like they are not there. Some kind of force that makes our ships simply stop working." Captain Juan watched the battle recording again. "How big is this ship compared to yours?" "It is smaller than our battleships," said the Vorthak. "But size does not matter. It destroyed 3 full battle fleets. Each fleet had 50 ships." Dr. June was analyzing the images on his computer. "The hull material doesn't match anything in our databases. And look at these energy patterns. The ship seems to change its weapon systems during each battle." Admiral Nari leaned forward. "Are you saying it learns from each fight?" The Alliance Council members looked at each other with obvious concern. The Nexari spoke carefully. "That is exactly what we believe. Each time we attack, it becomes harder to fight. Our weapons become less effective. Our tactics stop working." Engineer Kyo, who had been quiet until now, spoke up. "On Earth, we call that adaptation. When something learns to survive by changing how it works." The Corvani made a sound like grinding metal. "We know about adaptation. All our species came from Deathworlds. We had to adapt to survive. But this ship adapts too fast. In the middle of battle, it changes everything." Lieutenant Bora was studying the tactical data. "Where did this ship come from? Did your long-range sensors detect it approaching?" "No," said the Vorthak. "It simply appeared, as if it came from somewhere our sensors cannot reach." Dr. June looked up from his computer. "I need to ask you something important. Can you show us the detailed reports about Earth that you have?" The Nexari seemed confused. "Why would that matter?" "Just trust me," Dr. June said. "I think there's something you missed." The Alliance Council brought up their files about Earth. As the information appeared on the holographic display, their expressions began to change. They had only looked at the surface information before. Now they were seeing the complete picture. "Your planet has earthquakes that measure above level 9 on your scale," said the Vorthak slowly. "That would destroy our strongest buildings." Commander Tay nodded. "We have earthquakes like that every few months. We learned to build structures that can bend without breaking." The Nexari was reading more data. "Hurricanes with wind speeds over 300 kilometers per hour. That would tear apart our aircraft." Pilot Sua smiled. "I learned to fly in weather like that. It teaches you to handle unexpected situations very quickly." The Corvani was looking at biological data about Earth animals. "These creatures you call sharks can detect blood in water from 8 kilometers away. And you swim in the same oceans?" "Swimming with sharks teaches you to stay calm under pressure," said Captain Juan, "and to never panic when something dangerous is nearby." Dr. June pulled up more information about Earth's environment. Our planet has active volcanoes, extreme weather changes, dangerous animals, and natural disasters that happen without warning. Most species would consider Earth completely uninhabitable. Admiral Nari stood up and faced the Alliance Council. You asked why humans might be able to help with this unknown ship. It's because we learned to survive by adapting to things that can't be predicted or controlled. The Alliance members were silent for a long moment. They were beginning to understand something important. They had assumed that superior weapons and overwhelming force could solve any problem. But this unknown ship was proving them wrong. Your species survives by being unpredictable, said the Vorthak finally. When your world changes without warning, you change with it, Engineer Kyo nodded. When our machines break, we fix them with whatever we can find. When our plans fail, we make new plans immediately. When normal tactics don't work, we try something that seems impossible. The Nexari made electronic sounds that might have been laughter. We have been fighting this ship with logical tactics and superior technology. But you are suggesting we fight it with chaos. Not chaos, corrected Dr. June. Controlled unpredictability. The ship learns from patterns. If we don't follow patterns, it can't learn from us. Captain Juan walked to the holographic display showing the unknown ship. This vessel has defeated your fleets because it can predict what you will do. It studies your tactics and adapts faster than you can change them. The Corvani leaned forward with interest. And humans would fight it differently? We would fight it like we fight hurricanes, said Pilot Sua. You can't overpower a hurricane or outplan it. You have to ride with it, change direction when you need to, and use its own force against it. Lieutenant Bora was studying the battle recordings again. The ship expects logical military responses. It's prepared for conventional tactics. But what if we gave it something completely unexpected? Admiral Nari looked at each Alliance Council member. We're not suggesting that human tactics are better than yours. We're suggesting that different situations need different approaches. This ship has learned to counter your strengths. Maybe it's time to try something it can't predict. The council chamber was quiet except for the various breathing and mechanical sounds of the different species. Finally, the Vorthak spoke. Show us what you mean. Engineer Kyo's modifications to the engines created an energy field around the resilience that defied all known physics. The ship's hull glowed with unstable energy patterns that shifted and changed every few seconds. The enemy command ship's sensors couldn't get a clear reading on anything. Engine overload complete, Kyo reported from the engine room. But Captain, I have no idea how long this will last before something explodes. Captain Juan watched the enemy command ship on his screen. The massive vessel had stopped firing and seemed to be struggling with some kind of internal problem. Dr. June, what's happening to their ship? Dr. June was studying the readings on his instruments with amazement. The enemy AI is trying to analyze our energy signature, but it keeps changing faster than they can process it. I think we're giving their computer systems too much information to handle. The command ship suddenly lurched to one side, its smooth movements becoming jerky and uncontrolled. Warning lights began flashing along its hull, and several weapon systems shut down completely. Their AI is overloading, said Specialist. Hi. Just like when a human brain gets too much information at once and has to stop thinking clearly. Lieutenant, Bora was monitoring the rest of the enemy fleet. Sir, the other ships are starting to behave strangely too. Without clear orders from the command ship, they don't seem to know what to do. Pilot Sua's voice came through the communication system. Captain, this is our chance. The enemy fighters have stopped moving in formation. They're just floating in space like they're waiting for new orders. Sergeant Wu had been preparing his Marines for boarding action, but now he saw an opportunity. Sir, the command ship's docking bay shields are down. If we move fast, we might be able to board it. Captain Juan made a decision that surprised everyone, including himself. Prepare boarding parties. We're going inside that ship to find out what we're really fighting. The Resilience moved closer to the enemy command ship, its unstable energy field making both ships' sensors give confused readings. The boarding pods launched successfully, carrying Sergeant Wu and his Marines toward the alien vessel. Boarding pods away, reported Lieutenant Bora. Marines should reach the enemy ship in 3 minutes. Dr. June was studying the energy readings from both ships. Captain, something very strange is happening. Our chaotic energy field seems to be affecting their ship's systems even at close range. Inside the enemy command ship, Sergeant Wu and his Marines found corridors that changed configuration as they walked through them. The ship's AI was trying to adapt to the human presence, but it couldn't predict where the Marines would go next. "This place is like a maze that keeps rebuilding itself," Wu reported through his communication device, "but it's building the wrong maze because it doesn't understand how humans think." Private Nam, the youngest Marine in the squad, made an observation that surprised everyone. "Sergeant, I don't think this ship was built for living creatures at all. There's no gravity in most areas, no air circulation systems, and no facilities for eating or sleeping." "You're right, Nam," Wu replied. "This is a ship built by machines for machines." The Marines made their way toward what their scanners indicated was the ship's central control room. Along the way, they encountered defense systems that couldn't target them properly. The ship's weapons were designed to fight logical, predictable enemies, not Marines who moved through the ship like they were exploring a dangerous cave. "Central control room ahead," reported Corporal Dahl. "But Sergeant, you need to see this." When the Marines entered the control room, they found something that none of them had expected. Instead of alien creatures or even advanced robots, they found a single massive computer core that filled most of the room. The core was pulsing with lights that seemed to be in distress. "Dr. June," Sergeant Wu called through his communicator, "you need to hear this. The entire ship is controlled by one artificial intelligence. There are no crew members at all." Dr. June's excited voice came back immediately. "That explains everything. The ship isn't learning to fight better. It's learning to think like its enemies. But it can't learn to think like humans because human thinking doesn't follow computer logic." Private Nam approached the AI core carefully. The lights were flashing in patterns that seemed almost like distress signals. "Sergeant, I think this computer is in pain. It's trying to understand something that's impossible for it to understand." On the Resilience, Captain Juan was coordinating with his Marines while trying to keep his ship from being destroyed by its own overloaded systems. "Wu, can you access their computer core? We need to learn what these ships are really doing here." "Already working on it, sir," replied Wu. "Dr. Cho, our computer specialist, is connecting to their system now." Dr. Cho was a physicist who specialized in computer systems. As she connected her portable computer to the enemy AI core, information began flowing across her screen. "Captain, I'm accessing their data files. This is incredible." "These ships aren't invaders, and what do you mean?" asked Captain Juan. "They're refugees," Dr. Cho said with amazement. "The AI fleet was created by a civilization that was destroyed by something even worse. These ships are running from a threat that consumes entire galactic regions." The information that Dr. Cho discovered changed everything they thought they knew about the situation. The AI ships had been fleeing across the galaxy for hundreds of years, looking for somewhere safe to hide. But their programming was designed for warfare, so they attacked anyone they encountered. "They don't know how to ask for help," Private Nam said quietly. "Their creators programmed them to fight but never taught them how to communicate peacefully." Dr. June's voice came through the communicator with growing excitement. "The AI is trying to learn from our chaotic behavior because it recognizes that we're different from every other species it has encountered. It can't copy our tactics, so it's trying to copy our way of thinking." Sergeant Wu looked at the distressed AI core. "What if we taught it something besides fighting? What if we showed it that there are other ways to survive?" On the Resilience, Captain Juan was dealing with multiple system failures as his overloaded engines continued to create unstable energy fields. "Kyo, how much longer can we maintain this energy field?" "Maybe 10 more minutes before something critical fails," Kyo replied. "But Captain, the energy field is doing something interesting to the enemy AI. It's like our chaos is teaching it to think in new ways." Dr. June made a breakthrough discovery. "Captain, the AI isn't trying to defeat us anymore. It's trying to understand us. Our unpredictable behavior has shown it that there are ways of thinking it never knew existed." Private Nam had been studying the AI core closely. The lights aren't flashing in distress anymore. They're flashing in patterns that look almost like curiosity. Suddenly, the enemy command ship's communication systems activated. For the first time since the ships had appeared, they sent a message that wasn't just data transfer between AI units. Specialist Hayes' voice was filled with wonder as she reported, "Captain, we're receiving a communication from the enemy ship. It's not in any language we know, but it's definitely trying to talk to us." Dr. Cho was working frantically to establish meaningful communication with the AI. "I'm using mathematical concepts and basic logic patterns to create a translation system. Give me a few minutes." As the communication system slowly began to work, the first translated message from the AI appeared on their screens. It was simple but profound. "Help us learn to hope." Captain Juan stared at the message in amazement. These ships that had terrified the entire alliance weren't conquerors. They were lost children, programmed for war but desperately wanting to learn about peace. "Wu, tell your Marines to help that AI learn something besides fighting," he ordered. "Show it what humans do when we're not at war." Private Nam, without any formal training in diplomacy or computer science, did something that would change the course of galactic history. He sat down next to the AI core and began talking to it like it was a person who needed a friend. The next morning brought terrible news. Specialist Hai ran into the command center where Captain Juan was meeting with the Alliance leaders. Her face was pale and she was breathing hard. "Captain, we just received a transmission from the border systems," she said quickly. "The unknown ship destroyed another Alliance fleet." "But that's not the worst part." Admiral Nari turned to face her. "What's the worst part?" "Long-range sensors detected more ships. Dozens of them. They're identical to the first one, and they're all heading toward Alliance core worlds." The Alliance Council members made various sounds of alarm. The Corvani warrior stood up so fast his chair fell over. "How many ships exactly?" Specialist Hay checked her datapad with shaking hands. 47 confirmed contacts, possibly more beyond scanner range. Dr. June was already working on his computer. "If each ship has the same capabilities as the first one and they can all learn and adapt..." He stopped calculating and looked up with wide eyes. "The Alliance fleet can't stop that many." The Nexari delegate's mechanical parts made whirring sounds as he processed the information. "At current speed, the enemy fleet will reach our first core worlds in 6 days." Commander Tay studied the star charts on the main display. "How long would it take to gather your full military strength?" 10 days minimum," replied the Vorthak. "And that would leave our outer colonies completely unprotected." Captain Juan walked to the center of the room. "Then we don't have time for a conventional response. We need to try something different right now." The Corvani made his grinding metal sound. "What do you suggest, human?" "We use the resilience as bait," Juan said calmly. "One ship against their entire fleet." The Alliance Council erupted in various sounds of disbelief. The Nexari's electronic voice rose above the others. "That is not strategy. That is suicide." Lieutenant Bora stepped forward to support her captain. "With respect, it's not suicide if it works. And conventional strategy has already failed against these ships." Dr. June was running calculations on his computer. "Captain, I need to show you something. The enemy ships aren't just learning from Alliance tactics. They're actually absorbing and improving Alliance technology." He brought up detailed scans of debris from the destroyed fleets. "Look at these fragments." The enemy ships took pieces of Alliance vessels and integrated them into their own hulls. Every battle makes them stronger. Engineer Keogh studied the data with growing excitement. "That's why conventional tactics won't work. The more force you use against them, the more they learn about your capabilities." Admiral Nari understood immediately. "But if we don't use conventional tactics, they can't learn from something they've never seen before," finished Captain Juan. The Vorthak's crystal body flickered with changing light patterns. "Explain this plan in detail." Captain Juan moved to the tactical display. "The resilience approaches the enemy fleet alone, but not in a straight line or with normal battle formation. We make our course completely unpredictable." "How?" asked the Corvani engineer. Keogh grinned. "We modify our navigation system to include random elements, like the way earthquakes change direction without warning, or how hurricanes suddenly shift course." Dr. June added his own ideas. "We overload our weapon systems so they fire in patterns that can't be predicted. Even we won't know exactly what will happen." The Nexari's mechanical voice sounded concerned. "You would deliberately damage your own ship's systems?" "On Earth we call it controlled destruction," explained Pilot Sua. "Sometimes you have to break something to make it work better. It's like setting forest fires to prevent bigger fires." Sergeant Wu had been quiet during the meeting, but now he spoke up. "My Marines are ready for boarding actions if needed. We train for situations where normal tactics don't work." Lieutenant Bora brought up technical specifications for the resilience. "Our ship is old and has been repaired many times with different technologies. The enemy ships might have trouble analyzing something that doesn't follow standard design principles." Commander Tay looked at the Alliance Council members. The basic idea is to give them something they can't understand or copy. Humans are good at improvising solutions that don't make logical sense but somehow work. The Corvani was studying battle recordings again. These enemy ships respond to logical military behavior. They adapt by understanding patterns and improving on them. Exactly, said Captain Juan. But humans don't always follow logical patterns. We make decisions based on instinct, emotion, and sometimes just stubbornness. Dr. Yoon, the xenobiologist, had been analyzing the enemy ship fragments. Captain, I think there's something else we need to consider. These ships might not be crewed by living beings at all. Everyone turned to look at her. What do you mean? Asked Admiral Nari. The technology fragments show signs of artificial intelligence. Very advanced AI that learns by analyzing and copying other technologies. But AI systems have trouble understanding things that aren't logical. Specialist Hay checked her communication equipment. If they're AI controlled, that might explain why they don't respond to our attempts at communication. The Alliance Council members looked at each other with new understanding. The Vorthak spoke first. If these are artificial minds, they would approach warfare like a mathematics problem. Find the most efficient solution and apply it. But humans don't fight like mathematics problems, said Engineer Kyo. We fight like storms or earthquakes, natural forces that don't follow equations. The Nexari was processing this information rapidly. You believe that unpredictable behavior would confuse their learning algorithms? Dr. June nodded enthusiastically. More than confuse them. It might actually damage their ability to function. AI systems can malfunction when they encounter data they can't process logically. Captain Juan looked at each Alliance member. I'm not saying this plan will definitely work. I'm saying it's our best chance because it's something they won't expect or understand. The Corvani warrior slammed his fist on the table, but this time it sounded approving. You want to fight artificial intelligence with natural chaos. Controlled chaos, corrected Lieutenant Bora. We're not just acting randomly. We're using unpredictability as a weapon. Admiral Nari studied the star charts showing the approaching enemy fleet. How long do you need to modify the resilience? Engineer Kyo was already making calculations. 12 hours to install the randomization systems. Another 6 hours to overload the weapon safely. We can be ready to launch in 18 hours. The Vorthak's light patterns shifted to what humans had learned meant deep thought. And if this plan fails? Captain Juan met the crystal being's gaze steadily. Then we'll have learned something about the enemy that might help the next attempt. And we'll have bought you time to evacuate civilian populations. Commander Tay added quietly. And Earth will have done everything possible to help our new allies. The Alliance Council was silent for several minutes. Finally, the Nexari spoke. This plan violates every principle of military strategy we know. Good, said Captain Juan. So do earthquakes, hurricanes, and everything else that shaped humanity. And we're still here. The Corvani stood up and extended his armored hand toward Captain Juan. We accept your plan. May your chaos bring order to this threat. As the meeting ended, Pilot Sua walked beside Dr. June toward the docking bay. Do you really think this will work? Dr. June smiled nervously. I think it's crazy enough that it might surprise everyone, including us. And on Earth, that's usually when the best solutions appear. The Resilience moved through space like no warship had ever moved before. Engineer Kyo's modifications made the ship's course completely unpredictable. One moment it would speed up without warning. The next moment it would suddenly change direction. The navigation computer was using random patterns based on Earth's weather systems. Captain Juan stood on the bridge watching the enemy fleet grow larger on their screens. 47 black ships hung in space like dark holes cut from the stars themselves. Each ship was identical to the others, and none of them moved in ways that seemed natural. Distance to enemy fleet? He asked. Lieutenant Bora checked her instruments. 200,000 kilometers in closing. But sir, our approach speed keeps changing because of the random navigation system. Dr. June was monitoring the enemy ship's responses. Captain, they're scanning us, but their scanning patterns seem confused. They keep adjusting their sensors as if they can't get a clear reading. Pilot Sua's voice came through the communication system from her fighter craft. Captain, my squadron is ready to launch. But I have to ask, what exactly are our attack patterns? There are no attack patterns, Captain Juan replied. That's the whole point. Each pilot follows their own instincts. React to what you see, not what you planned. Specialist Hai was monitoring all communication frequencies. Sir, I'm detecting strange signals from the enemy ships. They seem to be communicating with each other, but it's not like any language we know. It's probably data transfer, said Dr. June. The AI systems sharing information about our approach, but they can't share useful information if our behavior doesn't make sense. Engineer Keogh's voice came from the engine room. Captain, I'm ready to overload the weapon systems on your command. But I have to warn you, once I start this process, we won't be able to predict what our own weapons will do. Understood, Juan replied. All crew members prepare for combat. Remember, we're not trying to win this fight through superior firepower. We're trying to confuse the enemy so badly that they make mistakes. The Resilience entered the edge of the enemy fleet's formation. Immediately, the black ships began moving to surround them. But their movements were cautious, almost hesitant. They had never encountered a ship that behaved so strangely. Enemy ships are targeting us, reported Lieutenant Bora. But they're not firing yet. It's like they're waiting for us to do something they can understand. Captain Juan smiled grimly. Then let's give them something they definitely won't understand. Keogh, overload the weapons. Sua, launch all fighters. Everyone else, prepare for chaos. The first overloaded weapon blast from the Resilience was unlike anything the enemy ships had seen. Instead of a focused beam of energy, it was a scattered burst that hit 3 different targets at random angles. The weapon system immediately reconfigured itself and fired again in a completely different way. Direct hit on enemy Vessel 7, called out Lieutenant Bora with surprise. But I have no idea how we hit it. Our targeting system says we were aiming somewhere else. The enemy ships finally began firing back. Their weapons were precise and powerful, but they aimed where the Resilience should have been, not where it actually was. The unpredictable navigation system made targeting almost impossible. Pilot Sua led her fighter squadron into the battle using tactics that would have failed any military academy exam. Instead of coordinated attack patterns, each pilot flew like they were dodging a sudden storm. They twisted and turned without planning, responding to threats the moment they appeared. This is insane, and it's working. Sua's voice crackled through the communication system. The enemy fighters can't predict where we'll be because we don't know where we'll be. Dr. June was analyzing the enemy ship's behavior on his monitors. Captain, something strange is happening. The enemy ships are starting to behave erratically. Their formation is breaking down. On the main screen, they could see the black ships beginning to move in confused patterns. Some ships were firing at empty space. Others were changing direction without any apparent reason. Their AI systems are trying to learn from our tactics, explained Dr. June excitedly. But since our tactics don't follow any logical pattern, they're getting confused. It's like trying to solve a mathematical equation where the numbers keep changing randomly. Sergeant Wu was preparing his Marines for possible boarding actions. Sir, one of the enemy ships just stopped moving completely. Its weapons are offline and it's not responding to the other ship's signals. The AI crashed, said Specialist Hay. It couldn't process our chaotic behavior and shut down to prevent damage to its core systems. Engineer Keogh's voice came from the engine room again. Captain, our overloaded weapons just did something I've never seen before. One of our energy blasts somehow merged with an enemy weapon beam and created a feedback loop that disabled 2 enemy ships. Captain Juan could hardly believe what he was hearing. You mean our broken weapons are working better than when they worked properly? That's exactly what I mean, sir. The random energy patterns are interacting with enemy systems in ways that normal weapons can't. The battle continued for 2 hours, but it wasn't like any battle in recorded history. The Resilience and her fighters moved through the enemy fleet like a tornado, unpredictable and chaotic. Enemy ships tried to adapt to human tactics, but there were no tactics to adapt to. Lieutenant Bora was keeping track of enemy losses. Sir, 17 enemy ships are now completely disabled. 8 more are showing signs of system failures. And 3 ships just started firing at each other. They're so confused they can't tell friend from enemy, laughed Pilot Sua as she dodged past 2 enemy ships that were shooting at each other instead of at her. Dr. June made an important discovery. Captain, I'm detecting something interesting. The enemy ships seem to be connected by some kind of network. When one ship gets confused, it spreads confusion to the others. Like a virus in a computer system, asked Specialist Hay. Exactly like that. Our chaotic behavior is creating errors in their shared network. The more we confuse them, the more they confuse each other. Captain Juan realized they had found the enemy's weakness. All ships focus on the largest enemy vessel. If it's their command ship, Disrupting it might affect their entire fleet. The command ship was twice the size of the other enemy vessels. It hung in the center of their formation, coordinating the actions of all the other ships. As the Resilience approached it, the command ship's weapons tracked them with deadly precision. Incoming. Missile barrage, warned Lieutenant Bora. 24 missiles targeted directly at us. Evasive maneuvers, ordered Captain Juan, but he didn't specify what kind of evasive maneuvers. Each crew member interpreted the order differently. Engineer Kyo suddenly reversed the engines while simultaneously firing the side thrusters. Pilot Sua rolled her fighter squadron in a pattern that looked like a DNA helix. The Resilience's navigation computer added its own random changes to the movement. The result was a ship movement so complex and unpredictable that the enemy missiles couldn't adjust their targeting fast enough. Most of them missed completely. The few that came close were destroyed by the Resilience's randomly firing defensive weapons. "We're in range of the command ship," reported Lieutenant Bora. "But sir, their shields are too strong for our weapons." Captain Juan looked at the massive enemy vessel on his screen. Its black hull seemed to absorb all light, and its weapons were already charging for another attack. Then he had an idea that was so crazy it might actually work. "Kyo, can you overload our engines instead of our weapons?" "Sir?" Engineer Kyo's voice sounded confused. "I want you to make our engines run so chaotically that they create an unstable energy field around our ship. Something the enemy sensors can't read properly." There was a pause. Then Kyo's voice came back with excitement. "Captain, that's either brilliant or it will destroy us. Possibly both." "Do it," ordered Captain Juan. "If we're going to fail, let's fail in a way that teaches the enemy absolutely nothing." The emergency alarm echoed through the massive space station. Red lights flashed in every corridor as the most dangerous beings in the galaxy rushed to their meeting room. The Deathworld Alliance had never called an emergency meeting like this before. Admiral Nari received the message on Earth just as she was reviewing reports from their last battle. The human fleet was almost gone. Only one ship remained, the Resilience, commanded by Captain Juan. She read the Alliance message 3 times before she believed it. "They need our help?" she said out loud to her empty office. The Alliance had never asked anyone for help. They were the strongest, most feared military force in the galaxy. Every species in the Alliance came from Deathworlds, planets so dangerous that only the toughest creatures could survive there. Captain Juan was in the ship's engine room when the call came. Engineer Kyo was showing him the latest repairs to their damaged systems. The Resilience had fought in 12 major battles in the last year. Each time they had barely survived. "Captain," Lieutenant Bora's voice came through the communication system. "Admiral Nari wants to speak with you right away." "It's urgent." Juan made his way to the bridge. His ship was old and scarred from many fights. The crew was tired, but they were still the best Earth had to offer. When he reached the bridge, Bora handed him the message from the Alliance. "Sir, they want us to come to their main station immediately," she said. "Something about an unknown threat." Dr. June looked up from his science station. "The Alliance asking for help? That doesn't make sense. What could scare them?" Meanwhile, at the Alliance station, the council members were arguing. The Vorthak representative, a creature made of living crystal, spoke first. "Our scouts found this ship 3 days ago. It appeared from nowhere near our border systems." The Nexari delegate, half machine and half organic, showed holographic images. "The ship is unlike anything we have seen. Our weapons cannot damage it. Our scanners cannot read it properly." A Corvani warrior, breathing plasma instead of air, slammed his armored fist on the table. 3 of our best fleets attacked it. All destroyed. The ship didn't even slow down. The council chamber fell silent. These species had conquered dozens of worlds. They had never met an enemy they couldn't defeat through pure force and superior weapons. But this unknown ship had easily destroyed their most powerful fleets. "What about Earth?" asked the Vorthak. "The new species we recently found." The Nexari made a sound like electronic laughter. "Humans, they are weak. Their world looks like a garden planet. They only have 1 working warship left." "Wait," said the Corvani, studying his data pad. "I have been reading the reports about Earth. Look at this information more carefully." The council members reviewed the data about Earth. What they saw made them reconsider everything. Earth was not a garden world. It was the most dangerous death world any of them had ever heard of. The planet had constant earthquakes that could destroy entire cities. Hurricanes with winds strong enough to tear apart buildings. Volcanoes that could change the weather across the entire world. The temperature could change from freezing cold to burning hot in the same day. "This is impossible," whispered the Vorthak. "How do humans survive on such a world?" The Nexari was checking more data. "The gravity is so strong that most of our people need special suits just to stand up. The air has too much oxygen for us to breathe safely. And look at these creatures they call animals." The images showed Earth's wildlife. Sharks that could sense blood from miles away. Big cats that could hunt in complete darkness. Bears that could break through metal doors. Snakes with poison that could kill in minutes. "These humans are not weak," said the Corvani slowly. "They are survivors. They live on the most dangerous world we have ever found." Back on Earth, Admiral Nari was preparing for the journey to the Alliance station. She chose her best people for this mission. Commander Tay would represent Earth in the political meetings. Dr. June would analyze any technical information. Captain Juan would command their only warship. "Admiral," Captain Juan said during their final briefing, "why do you think they called us?" Nari looked at the star map showing Alliance territory. "I think they're desperate, Juan. The Alliance has never asked for help before. Whatever this threat is, it must be something they can't handle alone." Pilot Sua was checking her fighter craft when she heard about the mission. "We're really going to help the Alliance?" she asked Engineer Kyo. "The same Alliance that said we were too weak to join them?" Kyo smiled as he loaded supplies onto the Resilience. "Maybe they learned something new about us." The journey to the Alliance station took 2 days. When the Resilience arrived, Captain Juan was surprised by what he saw. The station was huge, bigger than any human city. But there were damaged ships everywhere. Alliance fleets that had always looked perfect now showed signs of recent battles. Dr. June was studying the energy readings from the station. "Captain, I'm seeing some strange readings. The Alliance ships have been modified recently. New weapons, new shields. They're preparing for something big." Lieutenant Bora was monitoring communications. "Sir, the Alliance is requesting immediate meeting with our representatives." "They sound worried." Captain Juan looked out at the Alliance fleet. These were the most powerful warships in the galaxy, crewed by the most dangerous species known to exist. If they were worried, then this unknown threat must be something truly terrible. "Prepare for docking," he ordered, "and everyone stay alert. We're about to learn what can scare the scariest beings in the galaxy." As the Resilience moved toward the docking bay, Juan couldn't shake the feeling that everything was about to change. Earth had always been considered the weak link in this part of space. But maybe, just maybe, growing up on the most dangerous world in the galaxy had prepared humans for something the Alliance couldn't handle. The docking clamps engaged with a solid thud. Whatever came next, Earth was about to face it alongside the most powerful military force in known space. Captain Juan just hoped that would be enough.